The desert at night doesn't announce itself. It simply becomes softer. A thin moon hangs above the dunes like a slow silver lantern, and the sand, still warm from the day, begins to cool in gentle layers. The wind moves carefully, as if it doesn't want to wake anything. Even the stars feel quieter out here, scattered like calm thoughts you don't have to chase. Somewhere beyond the nearest ripple of dune, there's a hush of life you can't quite see. Tiny footsteps, a pause, a listen. The kind of movement that doesn't rush, because there's nowhere to rush to. The desert has time. It keeps it the way it keeps heat, patiently, and then slowly letting it go. And if you've had a long day, you're in good company. Out here, the dunes aren't trying to be productive. They're just being dunes. Honestly, it's inspiring. Minimal effort, maximum aesthetic. Now, let your shoulders loosen a little. Let your jaw unclench like a knot in a ribbon being gently untied. Let your breathing find its own comfortable rhythm. No forcing, no fixing, just a slow arrival. Welcome to sleepy nature's sleep, where the wild grows soft and curiosity becomes calm. Tonight, let your thoughts follow the rhythm of the earth, your breathing settle like evening wind, and your mind wander gently through the quiet wild. If this place feels peaceful, you're always welcome back, like returning to a quiet campfire where no one expects you to talk, and the only thing on the schedule is listening to the night. Some listeners come often, some drift in once in a while, and the desert doesn't mind either way. It simply makes room. And if you'd like to support the channel, it helps us keep the night lights low and the nature facts cozy, softly told, gently gathered, and always made with rest in mind. Tonight, our story moves into a world that lives almost entirely in sand and silence. We're visiting the deserts, those wide open places where the air is dry, the shadows are long, and the night is a cool blanket spread over the dunes. And in this quiet landscape, we'll meet a small, remarkable cat with fur the color of moonlit sand. The sand cat, Felis margarita, the only wild cat species that lives exclusively in desert environments. A feline shaped by arid life, adapted not for drama, but for endurance, for listening, for blending in, for moving gently through the heat and the cold. So settle in, let the desert become your slow backdrop, and let's begin with a soft step into the dunes. Some questions don't need big answers. They don't need a drum roll or a bright spotlight or a dramatic pause. Some questions are like a small, smooth stone you keep in your pocket, quiet, comforting, and easy to hold. Tonight, our question rests gently in the desert. The dunes lie under a thin moon, shaped like calm waves that decided to become land. The air is cool now, the kind of cool that feels polite. Even the wind seems to move with manners. Soft footsteps across sand. No sudden entrances, no loud opinions. And somewhere in this wide open quiet, a small life moves in a way that feels almost like a secret. Not hidden in a tense way, just private, like a whisper that belongs to the night. So here's our question, simple and desert-rooted. How does something small make a home in something so wide? Not a puzzle, not a challenge, just a gentle wondering, like looking at a single footprint on a smooth dune and noticing how perfectly it fits the world around it. because the desert can look enormous. It can look like space made of sand, open, endless, uncluttered. And yet, it holds so many tiny routines, small paths, small shelters, small moments of comfort. The desert isn't empty. It's simply spacious. It keeps its details subtle, like a shy storyteller. If you've ever walked into a big room and instinctively lowered your voice, you already understand the feeling. The desert has that same effect. It invites softness. And our sand cat, Felis margarita, feels like a little note written neatly in the margin of a very large page. A creature shaped by heat and cold, by open distance, by the kind of quiet that doesn't ask for anything. When we imagine home, we often picture walls, a door, a favorite chair, maybe a mug that always ends up in the same spot. The desert doesn't offer much furniture. No shelves, no curtains, no cozy lamps. And yet, life here still finds comfort by choosing shade, by timing its movements, by wearing the right colors, by listening closely to the ground. It's almost charming, really. The desert says, "I provide vibes." And the sand cat replies, "Perfect. I'll handle the rest." So let that question stay with you like a soft thread. How does something small make a home in something so wide? As we continue, we won't rush to answer it. We'll simply let the night show us, slowly, kindly, through sand, wind, and the quiet, careful rhythms of a desert cat. And for now, just breathe, like the dunes do, like the moon does, like the desert does, without effort, without hurry, without needing to be anything other than what it already is. The desert at night feels like a room with the lights turned low, calm, spacious, and softly held. The sun has already slipped away, and what remains is a gentle cooling, as if the land is exhaling after a long day of warmth. Sand, which spent the afternoon gathering heat like a quiet collector, now releases it slowly, grain by grain. The air becomes crisp, not sharp, more like clean linen. The sky opens wide, and the stars appear with the unhurried confidence of something that never needed an audience. Listen closely, and you'll notice the desert has a soundscape, even in its stillness. A faint brush of wind along the dune edges, a soft, dry whisper that travels and then fades. Occasionally, a tiny tick-tick of sand shifting into a more comfortable position, like the landscape is settling into sleep too. If deserts had pillows, they would fluff them exactly once and then declare the job complete. In this world, the rules are simple, and they're written in temperature and timing. Days can be bright and hot, and nights can cool quickly. Water is rare enough to feel like a rumor, so life learns to be thoughtful with every drop. Many desert animals arrange their routines around the gentler hours, especially night and early dawn, when the ground is cooler and the air feels more forgiving. The terrain is not just endless sand either. Some deserts have plains of packed earth, scattered stones, low shrubs that look like they've mastered the art of doing more with less. There are dry riverbeds that carry no water most of the time, but still hold the memory of it in their shape. There are stretches of dune fields, rolling quiet ridges that shift slowly over seasons, like the desert is rearranging its furniture at an unbelievably relaxed pace. And in these wide spaces, color becomes a kind of softness. Beige, gold, pale brown, dusty gray, tones that don't shout. Even the moonlight here seems to land gently, turning the dunes into silver-edged curves. Shadows stretch long and smooth, not dramatic, just restful, like the desert is practicing calm in plain sight. This is where the sand cat belongs, a small wild cat built for arid life, moving through a world that rewards patience and listening. Here, survival doesn't look like a struggle. It looks like good timing, careful energy, and a body designed to stay comfortable when comfort is scarce. Adaptation in the desert is often quiet. It's not a loud invention, it's a steady refinement. Fur that matches the sand, senses tuned to soft sounds, and habits that fit neatly into the cool hours of night. So as we step into tonight's landscape, let it feel simple, let it feel spacious. Let the desert be what it is, a calm place with gentle extremes, where life learns to move slowly, to rest deeply, and to blend into the quiet like it was always meant to be there. If you could paint the desert night into the shape of an animal, you might end up with something like the sand cat. Its fur carries the soft shades of dunes, warm beige, pale cream, a hint of dusty gold, colors that don't demand attention. In moonlight, it looks almost like a small piece of the desert decided to become curious. The sand cat is a true desert resident, Felis margarita, and unlike many cats that visit deserts or live near them, this one keeps its life almost entirely within arid places. Deserts aren't just part of the sand cat's range, they're the whole theme. And it wears that theme well, like a perfectly matched outfit that never goes out of style. Its coat is more than pretty camouflage. Fur helps soften the desert's contrasts, warmth when nights cool down, and a bit of protection when wind carries fine sand. The sand cat's body is compact and sturdy, built for a life that values efficiency. Nothing flashy, nothing extra, just quietly suited. And then there are those ears, large, wide set, and wonderfully expressive. They make the sand cat look permanently attentive, like it's always listening to a bedtime story. Those ears help with hearing, of course, catching faint movements across the sand. In a place where sound can be subtle, good listening is like having a lantern you don't need to hold. The face of a sand cat is gentle, soft lines, bright eyes, a look that feels both alert and calm. It's the kind of face that says, "Yes, I am awake, but I am not stressed about it." Honestly, it's an energy many of us would like to borrow on a Monday. The desert doesn't offer many places to hide in the way a forest does. There are no thick curtains of leaves, no tangled vines. So blending in matters. Being small helps too. Less surface area to heat, less energy to spend, less need for grand announcements. The sand cat doesn't conquer the desert. It fits into it, like a quiet note tucked into a wide open song. As you imagine this cat resting near a dune slope, picture how the fur and sand almost share the same color vocabulary. The land and the animal speak in matching tones. The moon draws a soft outline along the dune's curve, and the sand cat becomes part of that curve, part of that hush. And in this gentle matching, this calm belonging, you can feel the beginning of our story's rhythm. A desert, a small cat, and a quiet lesson in how softness can be a form of strength. The desert has a particular texture underfoot, sometimes cool and powdery, sometimes packed and firm, sometimes shifting like it can't decide where it wants to be. And the sand cat moves across it with a kind of quiet practicality, as if it has learned the desert's moods and politely adjusts. One of the sand cat's most charming adaptations is something you might not notice at first: its feet. The paws are covered with thick fur along the soles, like natural slippers designed by someone who deeply understands comfort. This fur helps in a few gentle ways, softening the contact with hot sand, protecting from sharp grains and rough ground, and giving a little extra grip on surfaces that like to slide. If you've ever walked barefoot on a sunny day and immediately regretted every choice you've made since breakfast, you can appreciate the value of built-in paw insulation. The sand cat doesn't have to do the little hot, hot, hot dance. It simply walks calmly, like a professional. Those furry soles also help the sand cat move with quiet steps. Sand already muffles sound, but the extra padding adds another layer of softness. In a world where many animals listen more than they look, quiet movement is like speaking in a whisper. The sand cat seems fluent in whispering, and in the desert night, walking is never just walking. It's listening with the whole body. It's reading temperature through air. It's noticing subtle shifts, where sand is looser, where it holds shape, where a small ridge offers a better path. The sand cat doesn't hurry. It doesn't need to. The desert is wide and time out here feels generous. If you picture the sand cat crossing a low dune, imagine the way its paws press lightly, leaving prints that look like small, delicate stamps in a blank page. Each step is brief, then erased by wind later, as if the desert prefers its stories temporary. There's something soothing about that, knowing the land doesn't keep a permanent record of every movement. It holds what it needs, and then lets the rest drift away. The sand cat, too, seems to live in that same spirit, doing what matters, leaving little behind, moving gently through the night without turning it into a spectacle. So as we follow this quiet creature, let your thoughts take the same approach. Light steps, soft attention, nothing to prove, just a slow crossing of inner dunes guided by calm, cushioned paws and the kind of silence that feels like rest. In the desert, the day and night feel like two different worlds sharing the same address. Daylight can be bright and strong, spreading warmth across sand and stone. But night arrives like a cool cloth laid gently on the land. The temperature eases downward, and the air becomes softer to breathe, still dry, still clear, but calmer in its touch. These cooler hours shape the desert's rhythms. Many animals prefer the night, not because it's dramatic, but because it's simply more comfortable. The sand cat, too, fits neatly into this pattern, an animal of the arid world that moves in step with the gentler side of the clock. Imagine the desert after sunset. Shadows lengthen, then melt into darkness. The dunes hold faint outlines under moonlight, like quiet waves frozen mid-sigh. The wind slows, then returns in small, polite gusts. The sky feels close and far at once, a wide ceiling sprinkled with steady stars. This is the time when the desert feels less like an open oven and more like an open room, cool enough to linger in, calm enough to settle into. It's a time for listening, a time for small movements, a time for soft routines that don't require much energy. The sandcat's body seems designed for this schedule. It doesn't waste effort. In the desert, energy is precious, like water. So life becomes wise with timing, resting when the world is harsher, moving when it is gentle. It's not about urgency, it's about harmony. And there's something quietly comforting in that idea. That rest is part of the plan. That stillness is not failure. That waiting is a skill. The desert is full of waiting. Seeds waiting for rare rain. Plants waiting for cooler air. Animals waiting for the night's softer temperatures. Waiting here doesn't feel anxious. It feels normal. It feels like patience made tangible. If your own mind has been busy lately, let the desert's rhythm offer you a different pace. The sandcat doesn't overschedule. It doesn't multitask. It doesn't scroll. It simply moves when the night makes room and rests when the day asks for quiet. So breathe with the cool hours now. Let your thoughts slow down like sand settling after wind. Let the night hold you gently, the way it holds the desert, without pressure, without noise, with a calm that feels wide enough for everything. In the desert, sound travels in small ways. There are no thick forests to echo, no rushing rivers to cover everything with noise. Out here, the world can be almost silent, and in that silence, tiny sounds become meaningful. A faint rustle, a soft scratch, a whisper of movement over sand. The sandcat's ears seem made for this kind of listening. They are large and wide set, like two gentle satellite dishes tuned to the frequency of quiet. Their shape helps gather faint sounds, and in a landscape where life often hides low and subtle, careful hearing becomes its own kind of map. Picture the sandcat pausing on a dune slope, body still, head slightly angled, ears attentive. Not tense, just focused in a calm way. The desert doesn't demand constant scanning. It invites steady noticing. The sandcat listens the way you might listen to rain on a roof, softly, patiently, without needing to name every sound. Those ears also serve another purpose. They help release heat. Many desert animals have features that assist with cooling, and larger ears can help with that gentle exchange, letting warmth drift away into the night air. It's a practical design, and also, frankly, a cute one. The sandcat looks like it's always ready to hear good news, or the opening notes of a lullaby. And listening is not only about finding food or avoiding trouble. Listening is also about belonging. It's how an animal knows the desert is calm tonight, or windy, or quietly shifting. It's how it senses the presence of other life, distant, unseen, but real. There's a lesson here too, offered without any sermon. The sandcat doesn't fill the night with noise. It receives the night. It lets information come gently rather than chasing it. It is not forcing answers from the desert. It is simply paying attention, one soft sound at a time. If you'd like, try borrowing that approach for a moment. Let your ears relax. Let your attention widen. Notice the small sounds around you, the hum of your room, the distant hush of night, the subtle rhythm of your own breath. Nothing you need to do with these sounds. Just let them exist. The sandcat listens, and the desert responds in whispers. And in that quiet exchange, the night feels steady, safe, and slow, like a soft blanket made not of fabric, but of calm attention. In the desert, shade is a kind of kindness. It's not dramatic, not rare in a sparkling way, just deeply appreciated. And when the sun has spent the day warming the sand, the coolest comfort often waits beneath the surface, tucked into the earth like a secret kept for resting. The sandcat understands this well. It doesn't ask the desert to be different. It simply finds the gentler pockets within it, places where the air stays cooler, where the wind feels less direct, where the world becomes a little quieter. A burrow in the desert is like a small room with no furniture and excellent temperature control. Not glamorous, but reliable. Sometimes a sandcat uses burrows made by other animals, and sometimes it uses shallow shelters where the land naturally dips or folds. Either way, the goal is the same: a soft retreat from the open brightness of day, a place to slow down without explanation. If you imagine the entrance to a burrow, it might look modest, just a small opening in sand or soil, the kind you could overlook if you weren't paying attention. But inside, the feeling changes. The air steadies. Sound becomes muffled. Light dims into a gentle gradient. The desert, which can seem wide and bare above ground, becomes surprisingly cozy below. And there's something soothing about that. This idea that even in a landscape that looks empty, comfort exists. It may not be obvious. It may be simple, but it is there. For the sandcat, the burrow supports a rhythm. Rest during the warmer hours and move during the cooler ones. This pattern is less about strict rules and more about quiet cooperation with the climate. In the desert, timing is a form of care. Not rushing is a form of wisdom. If you've ever closed your curtains in the afternoon and felt instantly calmer, you already understand the burrow's charm. It's the same feeling. A soft boundary between you and the world. A little dimness that tells your body, you may relax now. And yes, there's also something slightly funny about it. The sandcat, a perfectly capable wild animal, is also, at heart, an enthusiast of naps in a cool room. Honestly, relatable. So as we picture this gentle shelter, let it offer you something too. Imagine your mind as a wide desert, and your breath as the entrance to a quiet burrow. Each inhale, a step inward. Each exhale, a settling into cool shade. No announcements, no effort. Just a small, safe room of calm beneath the dunes. The desert teaches a subtle kind of invisibility. Not the magical kind, more the practical kind. The kind made of colors that match and movements that stay gentle. In a world of sand, pale rock, and dry grass, brightness can feel out of place. The sandcat's fur seems to understand this. It carries the desert's palette as if it was borrowed directly from the dunes. Pale tan, creamy beige, a touch of dusty gold. These shades don't shout, they blend. They belong. Camouflage for the sandcat isn't about drama. It's about harmony. When an animal matches its surroundings, it becomes part of the landscape's quiet design, like a soft shadow that fits the shape of the evening. In moonlight, the sandcat can look like a small ripple of dune that learned how to breathe. And that's the feeling. Not hiding in fear, not sneaking in excitement, just existing without needing the spotlight. The desert is already large. It doesn't ask anyone to be louder. There's a calm science to this blending. Fur color helps reduce contrast, especially in the pale tones of sandy terrain. When you match your environment, you appear less distinct. Edges soften, outlines fade. It's less disguise, more gentle agreement with the place you live. If you've ever worn the same color as your couch and briefly startled someone who didn't notice you, you've experienced a tiny domestic version of camouflage. The sand cat simply does it with more elegance and fewer snack crumbs. The sand cat's face also carries soft markings that break up its features, making it harder for the eye to lock onto a clear shape. Nature often paints animals with patterns not for decoration, but for softness. Softness of outline, softness of visibility. Even stripes and spots can function like quiet punctuation, turning a single bold sentence into a gentle paragraph. And perhaps there's a small lesson here, offered without any pressure. Sometimes blending in is restful. Sometimes being unremarkable is peaceful. Not every moment needs to be a performance. Not every thought needs to stand at the front of the room waving its hand. So let the idea of camouflage settle into you like warm sand cooling. Imagine your own busy edges softening. Your mind, usually sharp with to-do lists, becoming more beige, more moon sand, more quiet. Not disappearing in a sad way, disappearing in a soothing way, like slipping under a blanket. The desert doesn't demand attention. The sand cat doesn't demand attention. And tonight, neither do you. Just breathe and let your thoughts blend gently into the night. Water in the desert is not a constant presence. It doesn't sit in wide lakes or speak in loud rivers. It appears in smaller ways. Rare puddles after rain, tiny droplets on plants, moisture tucked into the bodies of insects and small animals. The desert doesn't offer water freely, but it does offer it quietly, in pieces. And the sand cat lives with that reality in a calm, practical way. Desert animals often rely on the water they get from food, and the sand cat is no exception. Instead of needing frequent drinks from open sources, it can meet much of its moisture needs through what it eats. This is one of those gentle, sensible designs nature repeats in arid places. If you can't depend on water being nearby, you find other ways to keep your body balanced. It's not glamorous. It's simply effective. Imagine the sand cat moving through a cool desert night, air dry, stars steady, the land open and quiet. It doesn't carry a canteen. It doesn't pause to complain about humidity levels. It lives in a place where the rules are clear. Conserve, adapt, keep things simple. And conserve doesn't feel strict here. It feels like mindfulness. Like the desert itself is practicing a kind of minimalism. Not the trendy kind with perfectly labeled jars, more the ancient kind, where you keep what you need and you don't waste what you can't easily replace. In the body, conserving water can involve many quiet adjustments: concentrating urine, reducing water loss, staying in cooler spaces during the hottest times, and living on a schedule that matches the gentler temperatures. These are not dramatic strategies. They're calm routines. They're the kind of choices you might make without thinking if you lived in a world where every drop mattered. There's something comforting about the sand cat's approach. It isn't frantic. It isn't always searching. It simply lives according to what the desert offers, and it makes that offering enough. And if we take a soft little wink from this, we might say, the sand cat is very good at hydration, without making it a personality. So as you rest, you can borrow that same gentle principle. not about water specifically, just about what you truly need. Your breath needs air. Your body needs softness. Your mind needs fewer sharp corners. Imagine the desert night supporting you the way it supports the sand cat, quietly. Not with abundance, but with steadiness. Not with noise, but with rhythm. Inhale, like cool air entering a sheltered place. Exhale, like warmth leaving the sand. Small wisdom, simple balance, a calm life held together, drop by quiet drop. When the desert cools, it feels as if the world becomes more readable. The heat haze fades, the air steadies, and scent, quiet, invisible, patient, begins to carry messages across the sand. For many animals, smell is a kind of map. Not a map made of lines and labels, but a map made of stories. Who passed by, what plant is nearby, where the wind came from, how long ago the night changed direction. The sand cat moves through this scented landscape with a gentle attentiveness. It doesn't need to see everything. It doesn't need to understand everything. It simply gathers information the way you might gather the mood of a room, without staring, without interrogating, just noticing. In arid air, scent behaves differently than it does in damp forests. Dryness can make some smells feel faint, while cooler night air can help scent linger closer to the ground. The desert becomes a low, quiet library of subtle aromas. Warm sand cooling into mineral softness, dry shrubs releasing faint oils, the dusty sweetness of hardy plants that know how to live with very little. And the sand cat, small and close to the ground, reads these scents in the way a careful reader follows a calm paragraph, slowly, patiently, letting meaning arrive on its own. Cats in general have a strong sense of smell, and while their world is also shaped by hearing and vision, scent adds another layer of understanding. It offers continuity. It offers context. It says, this place has a history, even if it looks empty. There's something comforting in that. Sometimes our minds look empty too, until a memory drifts in, or a feeling appears, or a small thought says hello. The desert, like the mind, can hold quiet traces, and if we allow a small feather of humor, the sand cat is basically doing what we all do when we walk into a room and immediately sense something, only it does it with more professionalism and less pretending everything is fine. So as you listen, imagine the night air as a soft ribbon moving across dunes. Imagine scent as gentle ink, writing invisible notes on the sand. Imagine the sand cat pausing, not in suspense, just in curiosity, letting the world introduce itself. You can do the same. Let your attention be light. Let your thoughts be scents passing through, noticed, acknowledged, and then allowed to drift away. Inhale, a clean, cool desert breath. Exhale, a soft release. The night is readable. The desert is speaking quietly. And your mind, too, can become a calm place where messages pass through gently, without needing to be held too tightly. The desert night is not pitch black. It's layered. There's moonlight that spills softly over dune ridges, turning sand into pale silver curves. There's starlight, faint, steady, almost like background music. And there are shadows, long and smooth, that don't feel scary so much as restful, like the darker parts of a painting that make the lighter parts look even softer. In this kind of low light, The sand cat's senses support a quiet way of moving. Cats are known for strong night vision compared to humans, and the sand cat's world is shaped by that same gentle advantage. The eyes gather what little light exists, making the night more navigable, more detailed, more calm. Imagine how different the desert looks through such eyes. A dune isn't just a shape, it's a gradient of textures. A small plant isn't just a silhouette, it's a soft landmark. The ground isn't just sand, but a surface with tiny changes, packed here, looser there, written in shadow and shine. The sand cat doesn't need the night to be bright. It's comfortable with dimness. It lets the darkness remain what it is, a quiet cover, a gentle atmosphere, a soft ceiling of sky. And there's something soothing about this relationship with low light. Many of us fill our evenings with screens and lamps and bright rectangles, as if darkness is something to fix. But the desert night shows another possibility. Dimness as comfort. Darkness as a place to rest your eyes and your thoughts. If you've ever turned off the last light and felt your body relax just a little, you know the feeling. Darkness doesn't always mean uncertainty. Sometimes it means permission. Permission to stop looking so hard. Permission to stop scanning. Permission to let the world become simpler. The sand cat's fur blends into moonlit sand, and its eyes make gentle sense of the shadows. Everything about it feels designed for quiet living, quiet seeing, quiet listening, quiet being. And if we add a tiny bit of humor, softly, the sand cat is essentially a desert specialist with excellent night mode settings. No manual toggling required. So let your own vision soften now, even if your eyes are closed. Picture the dunes under moonlight. Picture a small sand cat moving like a whisper made visible. Picture the shadows not as something ominous, but as something velvety and calm. Inhale, like moonlight arriving without effort. Exhale, like the desert cooling, slowly, kindly. And as the night holds its gentle layers, let your mind do the same, dim, quiet, and completely allowed to rest. The desert often looks like one long, continuous thought, smooth, pale, uninterrupted. But up close, it's full of small changes, a ripple in the sand, a faint slope, a tiny ridge where wind has arranged the grains into quiet patterns, like the land is slowly combing its own hair. Tonight, imagine the sand cat pausing at the edge of a dune, not because anything is urgent, not because the night is tense, simply because pausing is part of moving wisely. In the desert, stillness is not the opposite of action. It's a companion to it. A soft, practical moment where the world can be read more clearly. The sand cat's posture is calm, low to the ground, balanced. Its ears tilt slightly, like two gentle sails catching information. Its whiskers, fine, sensitive, help it understand the space around it, the way your fingertips understand fabric in the dark. It doesn't need to rush into the next step. The next step will still be there. There's a quiet science in this kind of pause. Desert landscapes are open, and small details matter. A patch of sand can feel different underfoot. The air can carry tiny shifts in temperature. The wind can offer direction, bringing scents and sounds from places you can't see. So pausing is not wasted time. It's a way of gathering the night's subtle clues. And the desert, being the desert, offers those clues in a polite voice. No alarms, no dramatic music, just a whisper of wind, a faint mineral scent, the gentle cooling of the ground. If you imagine the sand cat's eyes in this moment, they aren't wide with worry. They're simply attentive, like someone listening to a slow story and enjoying the rhythm. The sand cat belongs to the night, and the night belongs to the dunes, and neither seems in a hurry to become anything else. There's something we can borrow here without turning it into a lesson. When your mind is busy, it often feels like it must keep moving, jumping from thought to thought, like stepping stones over restless water. But the sand cat shows another way. Pause at the dune's edge. Let the wind pass. Let the moment settle. And if we allow one soft wink, the sand cat is not multitasking. It is not circling back. It is not following up. It is simply present, an icon of quiet competence. So take a small pause with it. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breathing be a slow tide that comes in and out without needing permission. Imagine the desert around you as wide open space inside your chest. A pause doesn't delay sleep. A pause invites it. In the desert, not everything is visible. Even under moonlight, shapes can soften, edges can blur, and distance can feel like a gentle illusion. That's where touch, subtle, sensitive, and quietly intelligent, becomes part of how an animal knows the world. The sand cat's whiskers are fine strands of feeling, like the night's own little instruments. They extend from the face in gentle arcs, not for decoration, but for information. Whiskers help a cat sense nearby objects and changes in air movement, giving it a kind of close-range awareness, especially useful when light is low and the desert is full of small, quiet structures. Shrubs, rocks, ridges, burrow entrances. Imagine the sand cat moving near a clump of desert grass. It doesn't need to bump into it to understand it. The whiskers notice the space before contact, reading the air like a soft page. This is one of nature's calmest designs, a way of knowing without colliding. Whiskers also contribute to a feeling of confidence. Not loud confidence, more like the confidence of someone walking through their own home in the dark, knowing where the corners are, trusting their steps. The sand cat's whiskers help make the desert feel familiar, even when it looks endless. And the desert is endless in its own particular way. It stretches outward, yes, but it also stretches inward. It invites you to notice the small things. A single blade of hardy grass, the pattern of wind on sand, the way cool air settles into low places like a blanket being gently tucked in. So the sand cat doesn't only live in a big landscape, it lives in a detailed one. Its whiskers help it feel the details, and the details help it feel at home. There's something soothing in that. The idea that home isn't always a building. Sometimes home is a sensory familiarity, a rhythm, a set of gentle cues your body recognizes, a quiet confidence that comes from being able to feel your way through. If you've ever reached for a light switch in the dark and found it without looking, you know the small satisfaction of touch-based knowing. Now imagine that skill turned into a lifestyle. The sand cat doesn't need to see everything brightly. It feels the world into clarity. And if we add one featherlight joke, whiskers are basically the desert edition of proximity sensors, only fluffier and significantly more charming. So, As you rest, imagine your thoughts as objects in a dark room. You don't need to turn on bright mental lights to inspect them. You can sense them gently, acknowledge them softly, and let them pass without bumping into them. Inhale, as if feeling the air before you. Exhale, as if giving the night more space. The desert is not empty. It's simply restrained. It doesn't crowd the landscape with greenery. It places life carefully, like small decorations on a wide shelf. A low shrub here, a tuft of grass there, a hardy plant that looks like it has mastered the art of surviving politely without making a scene. In the cool hours of night, these plants become quiet landmarks. Their silhouettes soften in the dark. Their faint scents drift gently when the air moves. And for animals like the sand cat, they offer small forms of comfort, shade during the day, cover at night, and sometimes a gathering place for tiny desert life. Desert plants are specialists in patience. Many have small leaves or spines that reduce water loss. Some store moisture in thick stems. Some grow roots that spread widely, searching the soil like slow, underground hands. Their whole strategy is calm efficiency, holding on to what's precious, letting go of what's unnecessary, and waiting without complaint for the right conditions. There's a quiet science in the way they manage water. In a place where rain is uncommon, plants often take advantage of cool nights. Some open their stomata, tiny pores on leaves, more during the night to reduce evaporation. They sip the air more gently when the world is cooler. They don't rush, they don't waste. If you imagine the sand cat near a small shrub, it might seem like an ordinary scene, just a cat and a plant. But in the desert, ordinary scenes are built from cooperation. The shrub offers a little shade and a little cover. In return, animals may help move seeds or enrich the soil around it. Life here is not loud about connection, but it is full of it. And it's sweet in a quiet way, like neighbors who don't talk much, but always bring your mail inside when it rains. Even the plants seem to understand the desert's mood. They don't compete for attention. They fit in. They match the earth tones. They let the sky stay big. They make the landscape feel calm rather than crowded. If we allow a soft chuckle, desert plants are the original minimalists. No clutter, no fuss, just sturdy, well-considered living, like a tiny home, but in botany. So as you listen, imagine a patch of desert with a few scattered plants. Let your mind rest in that spaciousness, where there's room between things, room between thoughts, room between breaths. And notice how calming that is. Not having everything packed together, not needing to fill every moment. Just enough life, placed carefully, doing its quiet work. Inhale, like cool air moving around a small shrub. Exhale, like sand settling back into stillness. In a busy world, eating can become hurried, done while thinking about something else, while scrolling, while planning. But in the desert night, routines tend to be simpler. Food is found with attention. Energy is spent with care. Nothing is wasted because the landscape politely reminds everyone that resources are precious. For the sand cat, feeding is not a dramatic event. It's part of the night's gentle schedule, an ordinary task done with skill and calm. The sand cat's senses guide it, listening for faint sounds, noticing small movements, reading scents close to the ground. It doesn't need the desert to be loud. The desert speaks softly, and the sand cat understands soft language. The sand cat's diet often includes small desert animals, things that fit into the quiet scale of this environment. In the same way that the dunes don't build skyscrapers, the desert food chain doesn't always need grand gestures. It's mostly small, steady exchanges of energy woven into the night. And because water can be scarce, the sand cat's food can provide moisture too, another gentle practicality of desert life. The sand cat isn't only feeding, it's also maintaining balance. It's keeping its body's quiet needs met without needing a visible stream nearby. There's also something calming about how nature handles enough. The sand cat doesn't stockpile an entire pantry. It doesn't obsess. It does what it needs to do, and then returns to resting and moving with the rhythm of the cool hours. If we add one soft joke, the sand cat is not into snacking for boredom. It is not eating because the fridge light looked interesting. It's very focused, very efficient, a creature who would absolutely not keep chips in the burrow just in case. And yet, it doesn't feel strict, it feels balanced. So picture the sand cat in moonlight, moving gently over sand, pausing, listening, then continuing. Not with suspense, just with care. The night remains quiet. The dunes remain still. The stars remain steady. If your mind is hungry tonight, not for food but for reassurance, let this routine offer some. Life can be simple sometimes. You can do one thing at a time. You can meet your needs gently. You can trust the rhythm. Inhale, like a quiet step forward. Exhale, like a soft return to stillness. The sand cat feeds as part of a calm night, and you too can let your thoughts become calmer, one gentle breath at a time. In the desert, stories are written lightly. A footprint appears, crisp for a moment, small paw marks pressed into cool sand. Then wind arrives, patient and unbothered, smoothing the page. The desert does not cling to every detail. It keeps what it needs and lets the rest drift away. The sand cat's footprints are delicate. They're the kind of marks that make you lean in closer, like reading a quiet note. You might see a pattern, a gentle line across a dune, a pause near a shrub, a slight curve where the cat chose a softer slope. Nothing dramatic, just the record of a calm life moving through a wide place. And those furry paws we mentioned earlier, they soften the prints too, making each step feel less sharp, less heavy. Even the evidence of the sand cat feels gentle. There's a quiet science in footprints if you want it. Tracks can reveal gait, direction, speed, and behavior. Where an animal walked, where it paused, where it turned. But tonight, we don't need to analyze. Tonight, we can simply notice how soothing it is that the desert holds a trace and then releases it. Because sometimes our minds do the opposite. We hold every footprint, every thought step, every old track we walked last week, last year, 10 years ago. We preserve them like museum exhibits, even when they don't need to be displayed anymore. The desert offers another approach. Let the wind come through. Let it soften the edges. Let it smooth the page. Imagine your thoughts as footprints in sand. They appear, yes. They exist, yes. But they do not have to stay sharp. They do not have to become permanent carvings. They can be temporary marks of being alive. and then they can fade. And if we allow a tiny grin, the desert is basically saying, "I saw what you did there," and then immediately choosing peace. So picture a dune under moonlight with a few fresh tracks. The sand cat has moved on, and the night remains wide and quiet. Wind drifts gently, smoothing the sand in slow strokes, like a hand flattening a blanket. Your breath can do the same inside you. A slow inhale, like the print appearing. A slow exhale, like the wind softening it. Nothing to chase, nothing to hold tightly. Just a calm record of a quiet night. And then a gentle letting go. In the desert, temperature behaves like a quiet ocean. It rises during the day, then eases back at night, rolling in and out with a steady rhythm. No drama, no announcements, just the gentle logic of sun and shade, warmth and cooling, light and dark. After sunset, the sand begins to release the heat it gathered. Not all at once. Slowly, like a long exhale. The air above the ground cools too, and layers form. Slightly different temperatures at different heights, as if the night is arranging itself in soft blankets. For the sand cat, this nightly shift is part of the landscape's language. Desert animals often align their routines with these cooler hours because comfort is not a luxury here, it's a practical choice. Moving when the air is milder means the body spends less energy managing heat. Resting when the day is warmer means the body stays steadier, calmer, more balanced. And balance is the desert's quiet theme. Imagine the sand cat in this cooling world, fur the color of dunes, paws padded like slippers, ears open to whispers. Its body feels the changes the way you feel a room become calmer when the lights dim. The sand cat doesn't argue with the desert. It cooperates with it, the way you might cooperate with sleep, by making things softer, darker, simpler. There's gentle science here, but we'll keep it cozy. In deserts, the air can be dry, and dry air often cools quickly after sunset because there's less moisture to hold heat. So nights can feel noticeably cooler than days, and the shift can be surprisingly swift, like a warm cup placed down and slowly forgotten until it becomes comfortably lukewarm. The sand cat seems built for these contrasts. Fur helps with warmth when the night cools. Behavior helps with comfort during warmer times, resting in burrows or shaded spaces, choosing the right hours for movement. In the desert, adaptation often looks like small decisions repeated with quiet consistency until they become a life. And honestly, it's a little inspiring. The sand cat doesn't attempt to outsmart the weather. It simply schedules itself politely around it. If we allow one tiny wink, the sand cat would be excellent at listening to its body. It would absolutely not sign up for a 2 p.m. desert jog. It would gently decline and return to a cool, shaded nap. A role model, really. So let the desert's temperature tide soothe you now. Feel your own internal warmth settling. Feel your thoughts cooling from bright daytime into soft night mode. Inhale, like the last warmth leaving the sand. Exhale, like cool air spreading gently over a dune. And as the night's temperature becomes steadier, let your mind do the same. Quiet, even, and ready to rest. There's a kind of peace that belongs to open places, not the busy openness of a big city plaza, but the wide, uncluttered openness of the desert at night, where the horizon feels far away and the sky feels even farther. Above the dunes, the stars appear with calm confidence. They don't flicker for attention. They simply exist, scattered like quiet ideas across a dark page. In the desert, far from bright human lights, starlight can feel more present, more visible, like the sky is leaning a little closer. The sandcat lives under this sky. It moves through a landscape that doesn't hide much behind tall trees or thick brush. Instead, the desert offers small cover, low shrubs, slight dips in the land, the gentle folds of dunes. The sandcat becomes part of this open geometry, fitting its body into shadows and soft edges. In a place like this, the night is not a curtain. It's a soft filter. Shapes become simpler. Distances become calmer. Even sound feels thinner, like the air carries less noise and more space. And space can be soothing. Space means there's room for breath. Imagine the sandcat pausing on a small rise, not to make a grand statement, but because the view is quietly useful. From a gentle height, the dunes look like still waves, and the sky looks like a deep, dark bowl filled with small lights. The sandcat doesn't need to admire the stars the way we do, but it does live within their glow. The night's light, moon, stars, faint reflected brightness, offers just enough visibility for a creature shaped for dimness. And we can stay light on facts here. Cats generally see well in low light compared to humans, and desert life often leans into the night's softer illumination. It's a world built for quiet seeing, not bright scanning. If we add a small feather of humor, the sandcat does not look up and think, "Wow, what a constellation." The sandcat likely thinks, "The ground seems interesting," because the sandcat is practical and adorable like that. Still, there's something calming for us in imagining this scene. Small cat, wide desert, steady stars. A reminder that you don't need to fill the whole world to belong in it. You can be small and still be perfectly placed. So let the starlit openness settle into you. Let your mind become a wide sky with fewer clouds of thought. Let your breath feel like a slow horizon line. Inhale, like starlight arriving without effort. Exhale, like a dune smoothing itself in the dark. The desert stays open. The sky stays steady, and you are allowed to rest beneath it. Gently, quietly, completely. The wind in the desert is a quiet editor. It doesn't shout corrections. It doesn't scribble angrily. It simply moves across the sand and gently rearranges it, smoothing some places, sharpening others, shaping the dunes the way a slow hand shapes a blanket, tugging, folding, settling. At night, the wind often feels softer, cooler, less insistent. It glides rather than pushes, and when it meets the dunes, it leaves delicate patterns, ripples like tiny waves, ridges like calm handwriting. The desert becomes a living surface, not because it's busy, but because it's always, slowly, being refined. The sandcat lives inside this constant, gentle editing. Its world shifts over time. A dune that was steep can become smoother. A small hollow can fill in. A familiar ripple can disappear and a new one can appear. The desert doesn't hold still in one exact arrangement. It changes with patience, and the sandcat meets this with the same quiet practicality it brings to everything else. It doesn't demand fixed pathways. It doesn't need a permanent map. It relies on senses, sound, scent, touch, low-light vision, to read the night as it is right now. In the desert, now is often the most useful information. There's a soft science tucked inside this. Wind-driven movement of sand is one of the reasons dunes migrate over time, reshaping landscapes in slow motion. It's geology with a lullaby tempo, a reminder that change doesn't always arrive with big moments. Sometimes it arrives as a gentle, ongoing smoothing. If you've ever watched your bedsheet settle after you lie down, you've seen a tiny version of this. The fabric adjusts around you, finding a new resting shape. The desert does something similar, but with sand and wind and a lot more patience. And if we allow a small whisper of humor, the desert is basically redecorating all the time. Minimalist redesign, same color palette, different arrangement, very chic, very committed. For the sand cat, this means flexibility becomes a form of comfort. It can rest in a burrow, move along a dune edge, or slip near a shrub, even if the exact contours change slowly. Life here is less about insisting and more about adapting gently. So let the wind's editing offer you something too. Imagine it moving through your mind, smoothing sharp corners of thought, softening old tracks, rearranging worries into something less jagged, less loud. Inhale, like wind drifting over a dune. Exhale, like sand settling into a calmer shape. You don't have to hold the day in place. You can let it be edited into quietness, and you can rest while the night smooths everything gently. Even when the desert looks still, it holds subtle movement. A tiny step on sand, a faint shift beneath the surface, a quiet scuttle that leaves no dramatic trace. In a place where sound can be soft, vibration becomes another gentle form of communication. Information traveling through ground like a whisper through a table when someone sets down a cup. Many animals, especially those close to the ground, are sensitive to these small vibrations. The sand cat, low and light, lives in a world where the ground can be read not only by sight and smell, but by feel. Through pause, through posture, through the quiet awareness of what the land is doing. Sand, interestingly, can carry vibrations in its own way. The grains shift, absorb, and transmit tiny signals depending on how packed the surface is. A firm patch feels different from loose sand. A cool surface feels different from a warm one. Even the texture itself provides feedback, like the ground is speaking in a language made of pressure and softness. The sand cat's furry soles help with heat and traction. Yes, but they also create a gentle interface with the land. Each step becomes both movement and sensing, touching and listening at the same time. The desert is a place where doing one thing often includes doing another. Walking becomes reading, and reading doesn't need to feel intense. It can be calm, it can be casual, it can be like the way you notice a change in air when someone opens a window. No alarm, just awareness. Imagine the sand cat pausing again, because pausing is part of its style. Its body is still, and the stillness makes the subtle more noticeable. A faint vibration here, a tiny shift there. The desert isn't loud, so small signals matter more. The way small lights feel brighter in a dark room. There's something soothing about this sensory world. It suggests you don't have to chase clarity with effort. Sometimes clarity arrives when you become quieter, when you stop adding your own noise, when you allow the smallest details to come forward. If we add a gentle wink, the sand cat does not need a vibration alert setting. It is the vibration alert. Nature gave it premium features, and it didn't even have to subscribe. So let this idea help you settle. Imagine your own body sensing comfort through small signals: the weight of a blanket, the softness of a pillow, the steady rise and fall of your breath. These are your quiet vibrations, your own gentle map back to rest. Inhale, a subtle lift. Exhale, a soft settling. The desert listens through the ground. The sand cat listens through the ground, and you can listen through your own body, finding calm in the smallest movements until sleep feels less like a destination and more like a gentle return. Desert life has a particular elegance. It doesn't waste energy, not because it's strict, and not because it's anxious, simply because the environment rewards calm efficiency. In the desert, doing less can be a form of intelligence, a soft, steady wisdom that says, I will move when it makes sense, and I will rest when it is kind. The sand cat carries this philosophy in its whole way of being. It is not a creature of constant motion. It doesn't perform busyness for the sake of looking important. It moves with purpose, and when purpose is complete, it returns to stillness, like a tide returning to shore and then resting. This is not laziness, it's balance. In arid places, heat can be intense in daylight hours, and water can be rare. Many desert animals adopt rhythms that conserve moisture and energy, resting in cool shelter during the day, moving during the night's gentler temperatures, letting the body remain steady rather than pushed. The sand cat fits neatly into this calm schedule, like it was designed with a built-in understanding of pacing. And pacing is soothing, even to imagine. Think of the desert itself. It doesn't rush through seasons. It doesn't grow thick forests overnight. It changes slowly, shaped by wind and time. It is the ultimate reminder that slow can be a perfectly respectable speed. The sand cat's small size helps it too, requiring less energy than larger animals and allowing it to move lightly, to rest easily, to fit into shelters that hold cool air. Everything about it feels like a gentle agreement with the desert. I will not ask you for what you cannot give, and you will not ask me to be louder than I need to be. If we allow one soft line of humor, the sand cat would be excellent at boundaries. It would absolutely say, no thank you, to unnecessary tasks, and then return to a beautifully timed nap. A desert icon. And maybe, for you tonight, that's the quiet invitation. Not to become a sand cat, though honestly, the first slippers are appealing, but to adopt the art of doing less. Let your mind stop trying to solve everything at once. Let your body stop trying to hold every worry upright. Let the night take over some of the work. Inhale, like you are choosing the gentlest hour. Exhale, like you are setting down what you don't need. The desert teaches steadiness. The sand cat practices it, and you are allowed to follow, loosening, quieting, settling, until sleep feels like the simplest thing you do all day. By now, the desert feels less like an empty place and more like a calm, open home. The dunes have become familiar, soft curves under moonlight, gentle ridges shaped by patient wind. The night air has settled into that comfortable coolness that asks nothing of you. And somewhere within this quiet, the sand cat continues its small routines, moving as if the desert is not something to conquer, but something to live with. Slowly, politely, and well. This last part of our exploration journey doesn't need a new spectacle. It simply gathers what we've already seen and holds it softly, the way you might gather a blanket closer around your shoulders. Because the desert story is not built from big events. It's built from details. Fur the color of dunes, paws made for hot sand, ears tuned to whispers, burrows that keep cool shade, and a schedule aligned with the kindest hours of the day. And that is, in itself, a kind of wonder. The sand cat is a reminder that adaptation can look like calm choices repeated over time. Not loud inventions, not constant struggle, just the steady shaping of a life that fits. Nature here doesn't seem interested in being impressive. It's more interested in being appropriate, matching the environment, keeping energy balanced, letting the body and the world cooperate. When you picture the sand cat now, you might imagine it as a small presence moving through a wide landscape, like a quiet thought moving through a spacious mind. It leaves delicate footprints, but the wind smooths them. It listens, but the listening is gentle. It rests, and rest is not a break from life. It is part of life. Even the desert itself participates in this softness. It offers cool nights, shaded pockets, small plants that hold their own patience, and a sky so wide it feels like it can hold your thoughts without getting crowded. If we allow a final featherlight humor for this chapter, the desert is essentially saying, "We do minimalism here." And the sand cat replies, "Perfect, I brought matching fur." So as we close this first long arc of discovery, these early chapters of learning and noticing, let your mind keep the tone we've practiced. Simple, spacious, unhurried. Let the facts remain light, like a few stars rather than a full textbook. Let imagery do the gentle work, and perhaps, without forcing it, let the question from earlier hover again. How does something small make a home in something so wide? We won't answer it sharply. We'll let it soften. We'll let it become less of a question and more of a feeling. That home can be made from quiet routines, and from fitting rather than fighting, and from allowing space to stay space. Now, the dunes are smoother in your mind. The night is calmer. The sand cat is simply there. And you can be simply here too, breathing slowly, resting easily, ready to drift into the next kind of wonder. The desert has a gentle relationship with memory. It holds traces, and then it releases them. A footprint appears, crisp and clear in cool sand. A line of paw prints across a dune looks like a small sentence written in a quiet hand. But the desert does not preserve it forever. Wind drifts through like a soft eraser, smoothing the grains until the page looks new again. And that can feel comforting if you let it. Because in many places, memory is heavy. It accumulates, it stacks, it clings to corners. But in the desert, memory is allowed to be temporary. It is allowed to be present without becoming permanent. This doesn't mean the desert has no history. It has plenty. It holds ancient layers in its geology. Sediment, stone, and time pressed into quiet records. But on the surface, where life moves, the desert often chooses softness over storage. It remembers briefly, and then it makes room. There's a kind of wisdom in that. especially when you think of the sand cat. Its life is built on small routines, small choices. It walks, it pauses, it listens, it rests. The marks of those choices exist for a moment, and then they fade. The sand cat does not seem bothered by this. It does not need an archive of every step. It does not need proof of how far it walked last week. It simply lives. If you've ever wished you could let certain thoughts fade the way footprints fade, you're not alone. Some days leave tracks we don't want to keep. Some worries stamp themselves into the mind and linger longer than they need to. And yet, perhaps the desert offers a gentle suggestion. Let the wind come through. Let the edges soften. Not forgetting in a careless way, forgetting in a kind way. Forgetting that makes room for rest, and we can keep this light with a small smile. The desert is excellent at decluttering. It does not keep souvenirs. It does not hold on to emotional baggage. It is the friend who says, "Do you really need that?" and then calmly sweeps the floor. So imagine your mind as a desert surface. Imagine each thought as a footprint. You don't have to trap it in concrete. You can let it be a moment and then let it fade. Inhale, like a fresh track appearing. Exhale, like wind smoothing it into calm. And as the dunes return to smoothness, you may feel your own inner landscape returning too. Quiet, open, gently renewed. When people hear the word intelligence, they often imagine quick thinking, clever tricks, fast problem solving. But nature offers another kind, quiet intelligence. The kind that looks like timing, like balance, like systems that don't rush but still work beautifully. The desert is full of this quieter intelligence. It's in the way plants conserve water without fuss, in the way animals align their activity with cooler hours, in the way life settles into rhythms that match what the environment can offer. Desert intelligence is not flashy. It is efficient, patient, and deeply respectful of limits. The sand cat belongs to this kind of wisdom. It does not win against the desert. It fits. Its body and habits seem shaped by a long conversation with heat, dryness, open space, and night. Fur that blends, paws that soften hot ground, ears that listen and help cool. A preference for the gentler hours. A comfort with low light. These are not dramatic solutions. They're calm, steady ones. And then there's the ecosystem itself, quiet networks of cause and response. A plant provides shade. Shade offers a cooler patch of air. Cooler air invites small insects. Insects invite small hunters. Hunters move lightly. Their movement becomes part of the desert's ongoing flow. Nothing needs to be loud to be intelligent. The desert also teaches feedback, that gentle loop where actions meet consequences and life adjusts. If a season is drier, routines become smaller. If nights are cooler, activity can widen. If wind reshapes dunes, pathways shift. The desert doesn't panic about these changes. It responds. It recalibrates. It continues. There's a soothing message hidden inside that, if you want it, you don't need to solve everything quickly. You can adjust slowly. You can respond gently. You can become wise through small, steady shifts. And if we keep the humor soft, the desert is basically running an entire complex system on low power mode, and it's doing a fantastic job. Efficient, elegant, no unnecessary apps running in the background. So tonight, Let your mind adopt desert intelligence. Turn down the mental brightness. Close the extra tabs. Let your thoughts become fewer, simpler, and more responsive than reactive. Inhale, like a system settling into balance. Exhale, like unnecessary effort melting away. Quiet intelligence doesn't hurry. It fits. It flows. And it rests. Because rest is part of what makes it work. If you wanted to write a poem about the desert, you wouldn't need many words. A few soft lines about light and sand. A pause. A breath. A sense of space. Adaptation in the desert feels like that kind of poem. Simple, precise, and quietly beautiful. The Sand Cat is one of those poems made living. Its fur matches the dunes not as decoration, but as belonging. Its furry footpads aren't just clever, they're comfort. Its large ears are not only useful for hearing, they make the whole animal look like it's always listening for something gentle. And its routines, rest and shelter, move in cool hours, are less like strategy and more like harmony. Adaptation here isn't a dramatic leap. It's a long, patient refinement. Tiny changes, repeated across time, until a life fits a place the way a key fits a lock. Not forced, not rushed, just right. And the desert is full of this poetry. Plants that hold moisture like careful secrets. Seeds that wait calmly for rare rain. Animals that move when the air is kinder. Everything is shaped by the same idea. Do what works, and do it gently. There's something calming about thinking of adaptation this way. It makes life feel less like a contest and more like a relationship. The desert offers limits, and life answers with creativity that stays quiet. Not rebellion, not drama, just a steady conversation between body and world. If you let this settle into your own life for a moment, you might feel a soft permission. You don't need to transform overnight. You don't need to force yourself into a shape that doesn't fit. You can adapt like the Sand Cat, gradually, kindly, in ways that honor your environment and your needs. And for one affectionate joke, the Sand Cat is essentially a tiny desert professional who said, "I will wear beige forever," and then became iconic. So tonight, think of your own rest as an adaptation too. A gentle adjustment toward what helps you. Dimmer lights, slower breathing, softer thoughts, a quieter pace. Inhale, like a line of poetry arriving. Exhale, like the poem finishing with a calm pause. Adaptation isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper, a soft change, a restful fitting. And as you settle, you may find that sleep is simply your body's most natural adaptation, returning you again and again to balance. In the desert, the seasons don't arrive with loud costume changes. There's no sudden burst of petals, no thick green curtains pulled across the land. Instead, the desert shifts in quieter ways, like a room-changing mood when the light moves across the floor. The air feels a little different. The wind chooses a slightly new direction. The night cools a bit more, or lingers a bit less, and the dunes keep their calm shapes, adjusting with patient time. For the Sand Cat, these seasonal changes are not a crisis. They're part of the long rhythm of being here. A small wild life living in a place that teaches steadiness. When temperatures shift across the year, routines shift too. Gently, sensibly, the Sand Cat's life is already arranged around comfort and conservation. so it can respond to seasons the way a thoughtful person responds to weather, by choosing the right hour, the right shelter, the right pace. In the desert, timing is the closest thing to luxury, and the desert itself seems to model this. It never pretends to be something it isn't. It doesn't try to look lush when it's dry. It doesn't rush to prove anything. It simply continues. Sand, sky, silence, changing slowly, reliably, like a long breath that never runs out of patience. There's a small wonder in that, the idea that change can be quiet and still be real. We often imagine change as dramatic, big announcements, big turning points. But the desert suggests another kind, subtle adjustments, slow shifts, a gentle rebalancing that doesn't demand applause. If you've ever noticed your own moods change without a clear reason, one day feeling lighter, another day feeling more inward, you understand this desert kind of season. Not wrong, not urgent, just different. And the sandcat moves through those differences with a kind of soft acceptance. It doesn't insist on sameness. It simply meets the night as it is. Cooler? Fine. Warmer? Fine. Windier? Also fine, though perhaps with a slightly squintier face, because sand in the air is never anyone's favorite feature. If we allow a tiny, affectionate wink, the sandcat would absolutely be the kind of creature who checks the forecast by stepping outside for 2 seconds, then calmly deciding, nope, and returning to the burrow. So tonight, let the desert's seasonal patience become part of your rest. You don't have to force yourself into one fixed state. You're allowed to soften and shift. You're allowed to be a little warmer, a little cooler, a little quieter. Sleep doesn't require perfection. It only asks for permission. Inhale, like a slow season turning. Exhale, like the desert staying steady anyway. The desert is often described as harsh, but it's also full of quiet cooperation. Not the kind that holds hands in a circle and sings, though that would be memorable, but the kind that happens through small, steady benefits shared across time. A plant casts a shadow. That shadow cools the ground. A cooler patch invites insects. Insects become food for small animals. Small animals become part of the sandcat's world, and the desert, without fuss, becomes a network of gentle exchanges. Nothing here needs to be loud to be connected. The sandcat lives within this quiet web. It may seem solitary, moving alone through moonlit dunes, but solitude doesn't mean separation. Every step it takes is shaped by other lives. The plants that offer cover, the burrows that exist because digging creatures came before, the tiny desert residents that appear around the edges of shade and scent. Even the wind participates. It spreads seeds. It shapes dunes that create sheltered dips. It carries smells that help animals navigate. The desert's community doesn't gather in one place. It's distributed, spaced out, and still very real, like neighbors who live far apart but still share the same sky. This kind of cooperation can feel soothing to imagine, especially when your mind feels crowded with human expectations, messages, schedules, opinions, urgency. The desert doesn't do urgency very well. It does patience. It does timing. It does a kind of subtle teamwork where each life plays its part without needing recognition. And that's a soft kind of beauty, a world where contribution doesn't require applause. The sandcat, for instance, doesn't need to announce its role. It simply lives, And in living, it becomes part of the balance. It moves energy through the ecosystem. It participates in the desert's slow flow. It belongs. There's a gentle reflection here, if you want it. You don't have to do everything alone, even when you're resting. Your body cooperates with your breath. Your breath cooperates with your heart. Your heartbeat cooperates with the night's quiet. Systems supporting systems. Without a meeting, without a memo. And if we slip in one soft joke, the desert is basically running a whole cooperative network with 0 emails, no follow-ups, no per my last message, a dream, honestly. So let the idea of quiet cooperation settle you. You are not separate from rest. You are part of it. The room supports you. The bed supports you. The night supports you. And your body knows how to soften when you stop asking it to stay alert. Inhale, like a small exchange of calm. Exhale, like returning it to the world. The desert cooperates quietly, and tonight, so can you. In the desert, life cycles are rarely flashy. They turn like a slow wheel, almost silent on its axle. Things appear, thrive briefly, rest, fade, return in a new form. Not dramatic endings, more like gentle transitions. The desert is very good at transitions. It treats them as ordinary. The sandcat's life fits into these quiet cycles. Nights of movement, days of rest, seasons shifting, food appearing in small windows. The desert doesn't provide constant abundance, so life learns to live in intervals. And intervals can be peaceful when you trust them. Imagine a desert night where a cool breeze settles. The sandcat moves softly, listening, stepping, pausing. Later, it returns to shelter. Its day becomes still. Then night returns again, like a familiar friend with a softer voice than yesterday. This repeating pattern isn't boring. It's comforting. It's the kind of repetition that helps a body feel safe. And beyond daily rhythms, there are longer cycles too. The gradual shaping of dunes, the slow growth of shrubs, the rare rain that wakes seeds that have been waiting patiently, sometimes for years. The desert is full of patience that stretches across time like a long, steady lullaby. There's something kind in the desert's approach to endings. When footprints fade, it doesn't mourn them loudly. It simply makes room for smooth sand again. When a plant dries, it becomes part of the soil. When a season changes, the desert shifts its mood and continues. That doesn't make life unimportant. It makes it integrated. Everything returns to the system, softly. If your mind has been clinging to something, an old worry, an old conversation, an old what if, the desert offers a gentle alternative. Allow things to complete their cycle. Allow them to fade when their time is done. Not forcefully, not by fighting, just by letting the wind move through. And yes, we can keep one tiny thread of humor. The desert is the ultimate let it go coach. But it doesn't sing about it. It just quietly smooths the sand and moves on. So tonight, let your thoughts become part of a soft cycle. They can appear, and then they can pass. They don't need to set up permanent residence. They can visit, say hello, and then drift away like a scent trail in cool air. Inhale as a thought arrives. Exhale as it completes and softens. Sleep is a cycle too. A nightly return, a gentle turning back toward balance. And you're allowed to follow the wheel, slowly, quietly, without needing to hold on. The desert is not in a hurry. Even when the wind moves, it moves with patience. Even when dunes change, they change gradually. Even when life adapts, it does so over long stretches of time, quietly refining itself like a gentle craft. Slowness here is not a problem to solve. It's a feature. The sand cat embodies the serenity of slowness in the way it lives. It doesn't spend energy where it doesn't need to. It doesn't move just to prove it can. It pauses. It listens. It chooses the cooler hours. It returns to shelter. Its life is a soft reminder that a steady pace can be the most intelligent pace. And when you think about it, slowness is often what allows us to feel safe. Fast can be exciting, but fast can also be tiring. Slow gives the nervous system room to soften. Slow lets breathing deepen. Slow allows the mind to stop sprinting. In the desert, slowness also makes space for noticing the ripple patterns on sand, the faint scent of a shrub's oils released in cool air, the tiny shift of temperature as you step into a shadow. When you move slowly, the world becomes richer without becoming louder. Details appear gently, like stars appearing as your eyes adjust. The sand cat's world is built for that kind of noticing. It hears small sounds. It senses small movements. It reads scent trails. Its entire life is tuned to the subtle. And subtle things don't like to be rushed. They prefer quiet attention. If you bring this back to yourself tonight, slowness becomes a gift. You don't have to fall asleep quickly to rest well. You don't have to win at relaxation. You can arrive slowly. You can drift. You can soften in stages. Sleep is not a test. It's a return. And because we're allowed one gentle laugh, if slowness were a sport, the sand cat wouldn't even enter competitions. It would politely decline, then take a very successful nap. Gold medal in being unbothered. So let your breathing slow down as if it has all the time in the world. Let your thoughts loosen their grip. Imagine the dunes changing at their own pace. No rushing, no forcing, just steady, patient motion. Inhale, like a slow wave of cool air. Exhale, like sand settling after wind. The desert teaches slowness without preaching. The sand cat practices it without effort. And you can join them tonight, quietly, gently, until slowness becomes sleep. Home. In the desert doesn't always look like a place with walls. Sometimes it looks like a shaded hollow, a burrow entrance, a familiar ridge of sand that blocks the wind just enough. Home can be a temperature, a scent, a pattern of stars above a certain dune. Home can be the feeling of belonging to a rhythm. For the sand cat, home is made from wide quiet, not from abundance, not from clutter, from space, space to rest, space to move, space to listen. It's a gentle thought that home can be spacious and still comforting, that you don't need constant noise to feel accompanied. The desert offers companionship in quieter forms, the steady sky, the soft wind, the cool ground, the patient dunes. The sand cat returns to shelter not like someone escaping the world, but like someone completing a circle. It has moved through the night, gathered what it needs, and now it returns to stillness. The burrow becomes a calm pocket inside a wide landscape. Inside, the air is cooler. The sound is softer. Light dims into almost nothing, and the body relaxes into the simple truth. Here is a place where effort can stop, there's something we can borrow from that return. You, too, can return tonight, not to a desert burrow, but to your own quiet place. Your bed, your pillow, your breath, the familiar weight of resting, the sense that you don't have to solve anything right now. And perhaps we can look back at our question again, the one we've been carrying like a smooth stone. How does something small make a home in something so wide? The answer doesn't need to be spoken sharply. It can be felt. Something small makes a home by choosing what is enough, by aligning with gentle rhythms, by resting when rest is kind, by letting the world be wide without feeling lost in it. And if we add one last soft grin for this section, the sand cat is basically the ultimate interior designer for the desert. Its style is cool, quiet, and beige, and honestly, it works. So let your mind become wide quiet now. Let it be spacious, not crowded. Let thoughts appear like distant stars, present but not demanding. Let your breathing become your burrow entrance, each exhale taking you deeper into calm. Inhale, like returning. Exhale, like arriving. Home isn't always a building. Sometimes it's a rhythm you can trust. And tonight, you can rest inside that rhythm, safe, slow, and gently held. The desert night has a way of circling back on itself, gently, not in loops of worry, but in loops of rhythm. Cool air returning, wind easing, dunes settling into their quiet shapes again. And as the night continues, our question returns too, not with insistence, but with softness, like a familiar scent you notice when you pass a certain place. How does something small make a home in something so wide? You don't have to answer. You can simply let the question rest beside you, like a small, smooth stone on a bedside table, present, calm, and not demanding your attention. Out here, the desert doesn't close in. It stays open. And yet, the sand cat is not lost. It moves through wide space with quiet confidence, because it doesn't try to fill the space. It simply uses what it needs. A patch of shade, a burrow, a line of dunes that breaks the wind. The sand cat doesn't require the desert to be cozy in the way a living room is cozy. It makes a kind of coziness through rhythm and familiarity. And maybe that's the gentle reply the desert offers. Home isn't always something that surrounds you. Sometimes it's something you practice, a routine, a return, a way of moving that tells your body you're safe. As we begin our descent towards sleep, let the imagery become simpler. The dunes are quieter now. The wind is a softer brush. The sky feels steady, as if it has been holding this calm the whole time, and is happy to keep holding it a little longer. Imagine the sand cat again, not as a character in a story, but as a small presence in the background, an animal that knows how to belong without making noise about it. It has listened, it has moved, it has rested, and now it settles into the night's gentle pace. If your mind has been busy, you don't need to chase it into silence. You can let it slow down naturally, the way the desert cools naturally. Your thoughts can become fewer, like stars disappearing one by one behind thin clouds of drowsiness. Not gone in a dramatic way, just softer, less urgent, less sharp. And if we allow the tiniest whisper of humor, almost like a lullaby note, remember, the sand cat is not overthinking. It is not doing a post-night reflection. It is simply existing, and somehow that is enough. So return with it. Return to your breath. Return to the quiet. Inhale, like cool air find in a sheltered place. Exhale, like the dunes smoothen into rest. And let the question stay gentle. No puzzle, no pressure. Just a soft companion as you drift. The night continues to soften, as if someone turned down the volume of the world one careful notch at a time. The wind, which earlier moved across the dunes like a quiet editor, now becomes less busy. It doesn't stop completely. It simply slows, and its touch becomes lighter. The sand rests more easily. The air feels steadier, cooler, calmer. Somewhere far away, there might be a faint sound, perhaps insects in the distance, perhaps the whisper of air moving around a shrub, but nothing asks for your attention. The desert is not a place of constant interruption. It is a place of long pauses and gentle transitions. If you imagine water, even though water is rare out here, imagine it in the way we sometimes imagine calm, a smooth surface, unbroken, reflecting the sky. The desert has its own version of that smoothness. It's the way a dune face looks when wind has finished shaping it for the night. A clean curve, a quiet slope, a surface that holds moonlight like a soft glow rather than a bright shine. And in this settling, the sandcat's world becomes quieter too. The animal rhythms continue, but they become less vivid in the foreground. The cat is still part of the desert, but now it feels farther away, like a gentle thought you don't need to follow. This is the descent, where we keep the meaning simple. The desert teaches steadiness. The sandcat teaches fitting. And you are allowed to drift without needing to interpret every detail. Let your body follow the same settling. Your shoulders can drop like wind easing off a dune ridge. Your hands can loosen like sand relaxing back into place. Your jaw can soften as if it finally remembered it doesn't have to hold any tension tonight. Breathing becomes the main story now. Slow, steady, uncomplicated. Inhale, exhale, like a tide that never needs to rush. Your breath doesn't need to be deep or perfect or controlled. It only needs to be yours. A gentle rhythm your body already understands. If thoughts pass through, let them pass like wind over sand, touching briefly, changing little, then moving on. No grabbing, no arguing, no planning. Just the soft noticing that says, "Ah, that's a thought," and then the softer release that says, "And now it can go." And if humor appears at all here, let it be nearly silent. Even the dunes seem relaxed. They've had a lot of practice, so settle with them. Let the desert smooth out your mind's surface. Let the night be wide and kind. Inhale, like moonlight resting on sand. Exhale, like everything becoming a little quieter. Sometimes the calmest answers arrive without words. They arrive as a feeling in the body, a loosened breath, a softened forehead, the quiet sense that you don't need to hold everything so tightly. The desert offers that kind of answer. We've been carrying a question through this night. How does something small make a home in something so wide? And now, as we drift closer to sleep, the question doesn't need to be solved. It can simply become part of the atmosphere, like the scent of cool sand after a warm day. The sandcat doesn't speak its answer. It lives it. It makes home through small decisions, choosing the gentler hours, resting in cool shelter, blend in with the dunes, listening more than it announces. Home becomes less a place and more a rhythm, something repeated until it feels familiar. And that rhythm is what we're practicing now. Your home tonight can be as simple as your breathing. Inhale, arriving. Exhale, settling. If your mind tries to widen into lists and plans, you can guide it back with something small and steady, like returning your attention to the feeling of the blanket on your chest, or the softness of the pillow, or the quiet air moving in and out of you. No effort, no intensity, just a gentle return. Picture the desert again, but simpler this time. Fewer details. A wide expanse of dune shapes under moonlight. A sky that holds its stars softly. A wind that has mostly finished its work. The sand cat is not the focus now. It's simply part of the scene, like a quiet note in the background of a lullaby. And in that scene, everything seems to be doing the same thing. Easing. The dunes ease into stillness. The air eases into coolness. The night eases into deeper quiet. Nothing is forcing. Nothing is chasing. Everything is allowing. Allowing is a beautiful word for sleep. It doesn't ask you to achieve anything. It asks you to stop resisting what your body already knows how to do. So let your thoughts become softer around the edges. Let them lose their sharpness, like footprints smoothing under wind. Let your awareness widen and then relax, like eyes closing in a dim room. If a small thought pops up, an unfinished message, a task, a memory, treat it like a tiny desert plant in a wide landscape. You can notice it, appreciate its existence, and then keep drifting. It doesn't have to become the whole desert. Inhale, like a small animal finding shade. Exhale, like returning to a cool burrow of calm. The answer is not spoken aloud. It is felt, and it feels like rest. The desert is cooling into its deepest quiet now. The sky holds steady. The stars remain, but they feel farther away, less like points of light and more like the gentle suggestion of light. The dunes keep their smooth shapes, as if they're resting in the positions they chose for the night. The wind is present only as a faint touch now and then, more of a sigh than emotion. And your own world can become this simple too. Imagine the night as a soft blanket, not heavy, not tight, just a calm layer that settles over everything with ease. It covers the sharp corners of the day. It dims the bright edges of thought. It doesn't erase anything harshly. It simply softens, the way moonlight softens the desert's curves. Somewhere in this scene, the sand cat has returned to its shelter. Not because it is escaping, but because returning is part of its rhythm. It has done enough for the night. It has listened enough. It has moved enough. Now it becomes still. And that sense of enough can belong to you too. You have done enough today, even if the day didn't go perfectly, even if your mind is still carrying a few loose threads. Tonight is not the time to tighten them. Tonight is the time to let them lie gently where they are. The question from earlier can rest now. It doesn't need more attention. It can sit quietly in the background, like a warm ember in a distant campfire, safe, steady, not demanding a story. Let your body sink a little deeper with each breath. Let your legs feel heavier in a comforting way, like sand settling. Let your arms rest where they are, without rearranging, without checking. Let your face soften, especially around the eyes where effort often collects. Breathing becomes slower, not because you force it, but because the body naturally eases when it feels safe. Inhale, a soft gathering. Exhale, a soft letting go. If thoughts keep appearing, you can treat them like distant stars. They can be there without being close. You don't have to reach them. You don't have to name them. You can simply let them remain far away while you drift nearer to sleep. And if you hear a tiny whisper of humor, let it be gentle. Even the stones seem relaxed. They've had practice. So rest like the dunes rest, wide, steady, unbothered. Rest like the night rests, quiet, patient, kind. Inhale, like a blanket settling. Exhale, like everything becoming soft. Now we enter the final kind of quiet, the quiet that doesn't ask you to imagine much at all. The desert becomes more like a feeling than a picture, a wide calm, a cool hush, a steady rhythm beneath everything. If you still see the dunes in your mind, let them be simple shapes, soft curves, pale shadows. If you still see the sky, let it be a dark softness with a few distant lights. Nothing needs detail. Nothing needs explanation. The night is doing the gentle work for you. Somewhere, the sand cat is resting. The burrow holds cool air. The world above is open and quiet. The wind passes lightly and then moves on. The desert remains spacious, and yet nothing feels missing. The emptiness isn't lonely. It's restful. It is space made kind. Your breathing is the center now. Inhale, slow and easy. Exhale, slower still. You don't need to control the breath. You can let it happen the way the desert night happens, naturally, steadily, without effort. Each exhale can feel like a soft drop into deeper stillness, like settling into a pillow that remembers your shape. If a thought arrives, you don't have to push it away. You can let it float past like a small cloud crossing a wide desert sky, brief, quiet, and gone without struggle. Your mind doesn't have to be perfectly empty to rest. It only has to be allowed to soften. So soften, loosen, drift. Let your shoulders melt into the bed. Let your hands rest like stones that have stopped trying to hold anything. Let your jaw be slack, gentle, unworked. Let your eyes be heavy, like curtains closing. The desert is still. The sand cat is still. The night is still, and you can be still too. Inhale, like cool air entering a calm room. Exhale, like warm effort leaving the body. Everything becomes one slow rhythm now. Breath, silence, softness, sleep. A steady, gentle motion you don't have to think about. And if, somewhere in you, there's a small smile, keep it. Not bright, not loud. Just a quiet warmth, like a tiny ember that makes the dark feel safe. Drift, settle, rest. The desert holds its quiet, and you are held within it. The night is wide now, and it feels complete. Not complete in a finished way, more like complete in a peaceful way, like a room where everything is already in the right place and no one is rearranging the furniture. If you picture the desert, let it be very simple. A soft slope of sand, a smooth line of horizon, and above it, a dark sky that doesn't ask for attention. The stars are still there, but they feel distant, like quiet thoughts that no longer need to be followed. They can exist without becoming a task. The The sky doesn't chase them, and you don't have to chase your thoughts either. Somewhere, the sand cat rests in its cool shelter. The burrow holds the night like a gentle pocket. Inside, it is dim. Inside, it is quiet. Inside, the body relaxes because it knows it is time. And your body knows too. Let your breathing be easy. Let it move like a slow, gentle tide, in and out, with no hurry. Not deep for the sake of being deep, just comfortable. If you notice any tension, you don't need to fix it. You can simply let it soften around the edges, like sand that settles when the wind stops touching it, like fabric that smooths itself when you stop tugging it. Let your mind become like the desert sky, open, spacious, and not responsible for anything right now. A sky doesn't hold meetings. A sky doesn't plan tomorrow. A sky simply is. And that can be enough for you tonight. Inhale and feel a soft widening. Exhale and feel a soft settling. You might still hear small sounds around you, a distant hum, a quiet shift, the gentle whisper of your room. Let them be like far-off night sounds in the desert, present, harmless, not demanding. They can pass through the edges of your awareness without pulling you awake. If a thought arrives, something about tomorrow, something about later, treat it like a star. You can notice it from a distance and then let it remain far away. You don't need to climb toward it. You don't need to name it. Just drift. Even your imagination can slow now. Pictures can fade. Words can become fewer. The body can do what it naturally does when it feels safe. Loosen, quiet, and sink. And if a tiny bit of humor appears, let it be barely there, like a soft smile in the dark. Even the dunes look like they're resting with perfect posture, effortless, iconic. So rest with them. Let the sky be wide. Let the sand be still. Let your breathing carry you gently downward. Inhale, exhale. Nothing to do, nothing to solve. Only the quiet, steady permission to sleep. The desert doesn't need to invent a new shape every night. It repeats what works. Gentle curves, smooth slopes, soft ridges where wind once passed and then moved on. The dunes rest in these shapes with quiet confidence, as if saying, yes, this is comfortable, we'll keep it. And repetition can be soothing. Your breath repeats too, in and out, a rhythm older than thought, a rhythm that doesn't require effort or improvement. If you still carry a little wakefulness, let it soften inside the repetition. Let it become less sharp each time you exhale, like a footprint losing detail as wind brushes over it again and again. Picture the dunes now, very faintly, not a vivid scene, just an impression, a soft wave of sand under moonlight. The sand cat remains part of this world, resting quietly. There is nothing it needs to achieve now. No excitement, no chase, no story arc. Just the steady comfort of being tucked into shelter while the night holds the landscape. And you can do the same. Be tucked into your own quiet place. Let your body feel heavy in a comforting way. Let your limbs rest without adjustments. Let your hands be still. Let your face relax, especially around the eyes and the mouth. If your thoughts keep trying to line up like a to-do list, you can let them unravel. Lists don't belong in the desert. The desert doesn't count. It doesn't measure. It doesn't schedule. It simply repeats its calm shapes and calls that a good night. And if we allow one last tiny whisper of humor, soft as a lullaby, The desert would absolutely ignore your calendar invites. It would simply send viewed and continue being a dune. So, inhale and exhale. Let the repetition do its gentle work. Let it rock you quietly the way waves rock a shore, the way wind rocks a small plant without uprooting it. Inhale, exhale. The dunes repeat their calm shapes. Your breath repeats its calm motion, and your mind can repeat one simple thing. It's okay to rest. No need to think it loudly. Just let it settle like sand. In the deepest quiet, the world feels less separate. Not in a grand cosmic way, just in a gentle, ordinary way. Like noticing that your breath and the night are moving at a similar pace. Like feeling that the room holds you without asking anything back. The desert belongs to the night. The sand cat belongs to the desert. And you belong to rest. Belonging doesn't have to be earned. It can be as simple as allowing yourself to be here, exactly as you are, without performance. The sand cat doesn't prove itself worthy of the dunes. It simply fits into them. It blends. It listens. It rests. So let yourself fit into this moment. If you still imagine the desert, let it be a soft background now, almost like a memory of calm rather than a picture. A wide hush, a cool stillness, a gentle sense of space. The question we carried earlier no longer needs to be held. It can dissolve into the quiet. How does something small make a home in something so wide? Maybe the answer is simply by letting the wide space be wide and still feeling safe inside it. Your mind can be wide too. Wide enough for a few drifting thoughts, wide enough for silence, wide enough for sleep. Inhale, as if opening a little more space inside you. Exhale, as if sinking into it. There's nothing you need to do with this space. You don't need to fill it. You don't need to decorate it with worries. You can let it remain clean, open, gentle, like moonlit sand. And your body, quietly, continues its own small wisdom. Heartbeat steady, breath moving, muscles loosening. It's the same kind of quiet intelligence we saw in the desert. Systems balancing themselves without fuss. If a thought tries to pull you back into daytime, you can let it pass like a distant sound in the night. It doesn't need a response. It doesn't need attention. It can drift away on the next exhale. Inhale. Exhale. A soft return to belonging, to safety, to stillness. You are allowed to let go now, to be small in a wide quiet, and to find that the wide quiet is kind. The desert is quiet. The dunes are still. The wind is only a faint memory. Somewhere, the sand cat rests, small, warm, and perfectly matched to the world around it. The night holds the shelter like a gentle hand, and the body inside it loosens into the simplest rhythm there is. Breathing, resting, being. You don't need to imagine more than that. You don't need to follow any more sentences. You can let the words become softer, farther away, like footsteps fading into sand. Your breath remains, in and out, a slow motion that carries you downward. And now, we close the night with the final lines, unchanged. Everything flows through the wild. Sleep in that motion.